Welcome to Science, Health and Healing, Library of Children's Health Core. I'm Dr. Majid Ali. The subject of this article is type 2 diabetes in children. Why more dangerous? I predicted in my book, Dr. Ali's Plan for Reversing Diabetes, that childhood type 2 diabetes is going to be more dangerous. When I wrote that book, I was following some children with type 2 diabetes and it became apparent to me. And then it really was a relatively easy thing to understand. Because these children who develop type 2 diabetes, excess insulin toxicity type of diabetes, as opposed to the classical childhood type 1 diabetes where there is no insulin production, is because these children were also suffering from undiagnosed and untreated mold allergy, food allergy, gut fermentation, leaky gut stage, yeast overgrowth, excessive productions of mold toxins such as tartric acid, arabinoids compound, furan compound, which directly poison their ATP energy generating enzymes in the mitochondria. The result is a rapid buildup of acid, tangling of the proteins, and rancidity of the fats, and stickiness of the sugar. And when that added to cellular waste and molecular debris will cause grease buildup in the cell membranes, it immobilizes the insulin receptor protein and makes insulin dysfunctional. And that's why they have more insulin, because their insulin doesn't work and the pancreas keeps producing more and more insulin. So I was beginning to see at the time that I wrote the book, in fact, about 15 years ago, when I first published my oxygen model of diabetes, focusing on the issues of toxicities of food, environments, and thoughts, which jeopardize the oxygen metabolism, and later on set the stage for the development of type 2 diabetes in children. Even at that time, since my focus was on the fundamental energetics and the oxygen dysfunction, and then I published an article, Dysox Model of Diabetes, and at that time there were close to 23 known hormones produced in excess in fat cells. And at that time, I think 20 of them were causing more insulin toxicity, more grease buildup, and increase the risk of diabetes. So this study in the spring of 2012 that clearly showed now that type 2 diabetes in children is more aggressive, more dangerous, actually validated what I have been writing for more than a decade now. Let me give you some statistics from this study. It included 699 children ages 10 to 17 treated at various medical centers around the country, that is United States of America, for 4 years. Usual oral medication for type 2 diabetes stopped working in about half of the patients. Now remember now, in adult type 2 diabetes, many people will go on with pills for diabetes for years and years and years until the system is totally shot and then they need insulin. Now this is a sad commentary that while these so-called scientists recognize that type 2 diabetes in children is much more aggressive and daily insulin injections were added to control sugar in these people in almost half of the cases, it never occurred to them to find out that these children have high insulin. They are hyperinsulinemic. Their insulin doesn't work. They are insulin resistant. It never occurred to them that we should try to figure out why their cell membrane receptor proteins, receptors to insulin, why are they not working? Why is insulin not working? Because if they had, they would have said, let's focus all those factors which are immobilizing the insulin receptor in the cell membrane, which is the cause of insulin resistance. And those factors are all related. They would have recognized if they were reading my book or my published papers. Incidentally, that article, Tisock's model of diabetes, is included on the Canadian Diabetic Association, but to my knowledge, the wizards at the American Diabetic Association never thought it is important to focus on issues of toxicities of food, environments, and thoughts. That's where my focus was. So to answer the question, why is it more dangerous? Because these children, regrettably, were made toxic by the toxicities of the womb. Their mothers had too much insulin. They had too much cortisol. They had nighttime nocturnal hypoglycemia. They suffered from anxiety. They were given, many of them were living on sugar, antibiotics, and caffeine. Many of them were being given prescription drugs for sleep, anxiety, and of course, many of them were also taking the materials of substance abuse. So these children were being set up for type 2 diabetes, which may appear 4 years later or 6 years later in the in utero. I have a video segment entitled Toxic Womb State. Please watch that. I've also written extensively, and many of these articles appear on the website of the Children's Health Code, and that website is kids123.org. Please visit that. I give you the biologist's view of the issues of obesity among children. 40% of New York City children are overweight or flat out obese. So these problems are very real. And it is a damning indictment of the people who published this paper in the New England Journal of Medicine, spring of 2012. That at least from the reading of that article, it's not apparent if they did anything to control the issues of mold allergy, food allergy, gut fermentation, leaky gut state, blockage of their mitochondrial enzyme system called Krebs cycle. You know, you can send a urine sample to a laboratory and get the information exactly. You can do a blood test or a skin test and find out if these children are allergic. But you see, they are not interested in that. They are focusing on controlling the glucose with more and more pills, and that the pills don't work, put them on insulin, as they did for about half of the people in this study. It is more aggressive because the children are more vulnerable and they are being mistreated. I did a 10-segment television series on my television program Science, Health and Healing in New York. And the title was, A Society Has a Choice. We can focus on insulin and live longer, healthier lives, or we can focus on glucose and die young. An individual has a choice. An individual can focus on insulin toxicity, correct it, and live long, healthy life, or can focus on glucose and die young. So these are harsh words for people who participated in this study and the people who did not point out this glaring perversion of the program. There was not one word about addressing the issues of food allergy, mold allergy, gut fermentation, blockage of Krebs cycle, their problems with the thyroid, adrenal, liver fermentation, bowel fermentation, problems of stress in the children, why they overeat, and of course, they're building up grease on the cell membranes. Insulin doesn't work. So for all those reasons, I predict, not only in the first part of this series, the title was An Epidemic Predicted. In another program, I showed you who's suffering most, and in another program, who will suffer most. And this program, of course, I'm trying to explain to you the basis, the chemical toxicity basis of this finding in this large study, that half of these children with type 2 diabetes had to put on insulin, in sharp contrast to type 2 diabetes among adults who for decades often do not need insulin shots. Children's Health Corps website kids123.org was founded 4 years or so ago by Talat, my wife, and I. Our vision was to provide a medium where authentic information about the health of children can be disseminated free of cost to people all over the world. And of course, our focus was on toxicities of food, environment, and thoughts. If our vision resonates with you, I hope you will share this YouTube segment with your email, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn contacts. And if you're a teacher or in teaching profession and you come across this YouTube segment, and if you looked at all the segments on this series, and then you realize that I am raising an important issue, I hope that you will make this YouTube available. Use your own creativity to as many people as you can, and in doing so, you will support our vision. Thank you for joining me. Do join us again. Until we meet again, may you be gracious, graceful, and generous in your spirit. Thank you so much. Thank you.